What really happens after death? In this banned interview, Carl Jung, one of the most influential thinkers in modern psychology, reveals shocking details about life after death, insights that mainstream media rarely touches. Jung's profound experiences with near-death states and visions offer a completely different view from common religious or scientific narratives. In this video, we'll explore Jung's forbidden thoughts on the afterlife and what happens to the soul after we pass on. Stick with us until the end. You may never look at life or death the same way again. Carl Jung wasn't just a theorist. He had first-hand experiences with what lies beyond. In 1944, Jung suffered a near-fatal heart attack that led to an out-of-body experience. He described floating high above his body, feeling completely detached from his earthly existence. During this extraordinary experience, Jung encountered a magnificent cosmic landscape, a sense of boundless time and space. He felt as though he was part of a timeless reality, where earthly worries had completely vanished. For Jung, this wasn't a hallucination, it was a profound revelation that life extends far beyond our material world. He explained later that the soul experiences an incredible sense of peace and cosmic unity. This near-death experience shaped his philosophy on life after death, making him believe that death was not an end, but a grand return to a much larger, eternal existence. This segment alone was considered too controversial, and many interviews touching on this were kept away from the public eye. Jung introduced the groundbreaking idea of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of memories, archetypes, and symbols shared across humanity. But what he rarely spoke openly about was how this concept relates to the afterlife. Jung believed that upon death, individual consciousness merges with the collective unconscious. Personal memories may fade, but the essence of who we are, our energy and our archetypal patterns, remain embedded in this cosmic library. According to Jung, death is not a total erasure, but a transformation. Our individuality dissolves, but our deeper soul elements live on in the collective psyche of humanity. He argued that this explains why ancient cultures, symbols, and mythologies resonate across different times and civilizations. Death, in Jung's view, reconnects us with this eternal source of wisdom and existence. This concept was seen as too mystical for the mainstream and often edited out of public interviews. In Jungian psychology, archetypes represent universal patterns of human experience. Jung believed that when we die, we are guided by these archetypes, especially by what he called the wise old man or the great mother. These figures appear in myths and dreams, acting as protectors and guides through life's greatest transitions, including death. Jung suggested that these archetypes manifest during our transition into the afterlife, easing the journey and leading the soul toward higher realms of consciousness. People who experience near-death often report visions of deceased loved ones, spirit guides, or divine figures. Jung believed these were archetypal projections helping us transition peacefully. This idea challenged both religious doctrines and materialistic views of death, making it a forbidden subject in many academic circles. One of Jung's most radical ideas was the concept of psychological and spiritual rebirth. He didn't believe in linear time after death, but rather in a cyclical process of transformation. Jung thought the soul undergoes cycles of death, rebirth, and renewal. Not necessarily reincarnation in the traditional sense, but a continual evolution of consciousness. Through death, the psyche purifies and transforms, shedding its material attachments before integrating into a higher state of being. In various cultures, this cycle is symbolized by the phoenix, the Ouroboros, or the lotus flower, symbols Jung often analyzed. For him, death was not a final destination, but a necessary step in the soul's evolution, allowing it to ascend towards greater wisdom and enlightenment. In his later years, Jung was frequently asked about his beliefs on death. His answer was simple yet profound. "I don't believe, I know." Jung stated that the afterlife was a certainty to him, not based on blind faith, but on personal experience and inner knowledge. He viewed death as a meaningful continuation, not a void. Jung's final writings express serenity about death, seeing it as a homecoming, a reunion with the greater self and the collective energy of the universe. He warned people not to fear death, but to understand it as part of a magnificent cycle. This perspective, however, didn't fit into the academic or religious establishments, leading to the suppression of many of his deeper views on the afterlife. Carl Jung placed immense importance on dreams, not just as psychological phenomena, but as portals to other dimensions. He claimed that through dreams, the unconscious mind reveals knowledge of life, death, and existence beyond the physical world. Jung's dream analysis suggested that many symbols, especially those of crossing rivers, climbing mountains, or meeting luminous figures, indicate preparation for death or glimpses of the afterlife. He argued that certain dreams, especially those before death, serve as guides for the departing soul. According to Jung, these dream visions are not mere illusions, but communications from the deeper self, offering reassurance and wisdom about the transition to the afterlife. This spiritual dimension of dream interpretation was heavily criticized and downplayed in academic discussions, making it a forbidden area of his work. Jung's concept of the self represented the ultimate totality of the psyche, far beyond the conscious ego. He argued that in life, we only experience fragments of our true nature. In death, Jung believed, the fragmented consciousness reunites with the self in its complete form. This reunion brings about an incredible sense of wholeness and understanding, a state where all inner conflicts dissolve. Jung's writings often suggested that the self existed in a timeless reality, unbound by physical limitations. Upon death, we return to this higher self, experiencing profound clarity and peace. This revelation, Jung insisted, was liberating, but because it did not conform to materialist science, it remained largely suppressed in public teachings. One reoccurring theme in Jung's analysis of near-death experiences in dreams was the vision of light. Countless accounts mention moving towards a brilliant, comforting light after death. Jung interpreted this universal symbol as an archetypal image of transcendence, the psyche's transition into higher awareness. He viewed the light as a symbol of ultimate knowledge and unity, representing the spiritual truth that awaits beyond the physical realm. The light's appearance across diverse cultures, religions, and personal testimonies suggested to Jung that it was not a fantasy, but a collective reality encoded in the unconscious mind. His views on light after death were dismissed by rigid scientific communities, keeping this part of his work hidden from mainstream discourse. Jung's concept of the shadow, the repressed and darker parts of our personality, plays a crucial role even after death. He believed that unintegrated shadows could follow the soul, causing disturbances or lingering attachments to the material world. Jung suggested that resolving these shadow elements during life was essential for a peaceful transition after death. Through inner work and self-realization, individuals could attain a clearer, more harmonious passage to the afterlife. This spiritual, psychological connection made Jung's death theories distinct, emphasizing personal responsibility in preparing for death. His approach clashed with dogmatic views, leading to its exclusion from mainstream narratives. Jung coined the term synchronicity to describe meaningful coincidences that defy logical explanation. He extended this idea to include communications from the deceased. Jung believed that synchronicities after a loved one's death were not random, but significant messages from beyond, orchestrated by the collective unconscious. He documented cases where people experienced strange, unexplained coincidences shortly after someone's passing, symbols, animals, or dreams appearing with uncanny timing. According to Jung, these synchronicities showed the living that death wasn't a final farewell, but a continued dialogue through symbolic means. This mystical view faced rejection by empirical sciences, leading to suppression in public psychological teachings. Jung was fascinated by alchemy, not for its material goals, but its metaphorical insights into psychological and spiritual transformation. He viewed death as the alchemical process of nigredo, the blackening or dissolution stage, before a higher spiritual rebirth. According to Jung, just as lead is purified into gold, the soul undergoes purification after death, shedding its worldly impurities before ascending into higher states of being. He believed the alchemical symbolism held the key to understanding the afterlife, explaining death as a gateway to spiritual enlightenment. However, these ideas were often ridiculed in the modern academic world, silencing many of Jung's deeper insights. Jung often analyzed the mandala, a circular symbol found in numerous spiritual traditions, as the representation of the self and the wholeness of existence. He theorized that the mandala symbolized the afterlife's structure, a balanced, harmonious center of being. Many of his patients reported seeing mandala-like visions during life-threatening experiences or before death. While this dissolution may seem terrifying to some, Jung viewed it as an essential step toward cosmic unity. Without the constraints of the ego, the soul could experience its true nature beyond time and space. Jung's descriptions of ego death during afterlife experiences challenged both religious judgment narratives and materialist denials, making them highly controversial and often excluded from mainstream publications. Jung criticized modern society's obsession with materialism, arguing it generated an unhealthy fear of death. He believed that by ignoring the spiritual dimension of existence, people lost their connection to the deeper purpose of life and death. Jung warned that this denial led to existential emptiness and anxiety around death. He advocated for inner exploration, dreams, and symbols as tools to reconnect with the mysteries of existence. His critique of modern culture's treatment of death was unpopular among scientific materialists and institutional authorities, further contributing to the censorship of his ideas on the afterlife. Jung extensively studied Eastern philosophies, particularly Hinduism and Buddhism, and found their views on death aligned closely with his own conclusions. Concepts like karma, reincarnation, and transcendence mirrored Jung's ideas of psychic evolution and the cycle of rebirth. Jung believed bridging Eastern and Western perspectives could lead to a more holistic understanding of life after death. However, during his time, the West was resistant to Eastern spiritual influences, and many of Jung's discussions on Eastern death philosophies remained sidelined or unpublished. Jung firmly believed that the soul exists outside of linear time. In his writings, he suggested that our psychological experience of time is merely a construct of the physical world. After death, Jung theorized, the soul enters a timeless dimension where past, present, and future merge into one eternal now. This timeless experience eliminates human anxieties about aging, endings, and loss. People who have near-death experiences often describe this strange sensation, an overwhelming feeling of being outside time. Jung pointed to this as proof of the psyche's non-linear existence. For Jung, the timeless nature of the soul confirmed that death was not a termination, but an awakening into a more expansive realm of reality. This radical view contrasted with Western linear ideologies and faced pushback from both religious and scientific communities. Jung's reflections suggested that life's deeper purpose becomes crystal clear after death. He argued that much of human suffering comes from a disconnection to the self, driven by the ego's limited viewpoint. Jung believed that after death, people awaken to the true purpose of their existence: learning, growth, and self-realization. This awakening allows souls to recognize the meaningful connections between their experiences, dreams, and relationships. Jung described it as seeing the whole tapestry of life rather than just isolated moments. The pain, joys, and lessons suddenly make sense in a broader cosmic perspective. He emphasized that those who engaged in inner work during life would experience this realization with greater peace and fulfillment. This concept conflicted with rigid moralistic views, making it a controversial element of his philosophy. Jung frequently compared death to a second birth. Just as physical birth delivers us into the material world, death transitions us into the spiritual world. He believed the fear of death comes from the ego's resistance to letting go, much like the fear of birth comes from leaving the comfort of the womb. Jung explained that death leads to a rebirth into a higher dimension of consciousness, where the soul becomes aware of its infinite existence. This rebirth doesn't erase individuality, but transforms it into a more unified, radiant state of being. He wrote about similar themes in various mythologies, showing humanity's timeless understanding of death as a sacred passage. Jung's interpretation was far too spiritual for secular institutions and too psychological for religious orthodoxy, thus rarely discussed openly. Another mystical aspect of Jung's afterlife exploration involved ancestral connections. He claimed that many people, including himself, had dreams or visions of their ancestors guiding or watching over them during key life events. Jung suggested that after death, we reunite with ancestral energies, both biological and spiritual. These ancestors serve as guides in the next realm, offering wisdom and helping navigate the journey beyond. This belief aligned with many indigenous traditions, but contradicted Western scientific materialism, leading to its exclusion in academic psychology. Jung viewed these encounters as deeply healing, providing continuity between generations and demonstrating that death is a return to a larger familial and cosmic community. Jung believed that the ultimate destination after death is an experience of cosmic consciousness. He defined this state as unity with the entirety of existence, where the boundaries between self and other disappear. Jung taught that at this cosmic level, the soul recognizes itself as part of the grand universal design. It is an experience of overwhelming love, wisdom, and interconnectedness. Many mystics across time have described similar states of unity after spiritual awakening or near-death experiences. Jung argued that this final stage of afterlife existence erases all human-made divisions, including race, creed, and social status. This liberating idea defied the structures of control in religion and politics, which is why Jung's full thoughts on cosmic consciousness were rarely presented in mainstream media. Recently published letters and private correspondences reveal that Jung exchanged many thoughts about the afterlife with close friends and scholars, but deliberately avoided public discussions to protect his academic reputation. In these letters, Jung openly admitted that he had visions and spiritual experiences affirming life after death. He also expressed frustration at the rigid skepticism of the Western academic world. These hidden writings, now accessible to the public, reveal a far more mystical and confident Jung regarding the reality of the afterlife, one who knew far more than he was allowed to publicly teach. Jung's holistic view of death was labeled as taboo by many academic and religious institutions. Universities rejected his theories for being unscientific, while churches feared they contradicted their established doctrines. This dual rejection created a widespread censorship of Jung's afterlife teachings. The result was a public version of Jung that focused on analytical psychology, while his mystical beliefs remained locked away in private notes and interviews. Today, scholars who dig deeper realize that Jung offered profound spiritual wisdom that could comfort humanity's existential fears, but much of it remains hidden from mainstream narratives. In recent decades, scientific research into consciousness and near-death experiences is slowly validating what Jung proposed nearly a century ago. Studies in quantum physics, consciousness research, and psychology are beginning to entertain the possibility of non-material existence. Thousands of documented near-death experiences align with Jung's theories about light, ancestors, timelessness, and cosmic unity. While science remains cautious, cracks are forming in the materialist worldview. Jung's suppressed teachings are resurfacing as modern researchers explore the mysteries of death, proving that his forbidden ideas were far ahead of their time. Carl Jung's work offers us a profound lesson. We should not fear death, but embrace it as part of life's great mystery. By integrating his teachings, understanding dreams, acknowledging the shadow, exploring our inner world, we prepare ourselves for a peaceful transition. Jung's writings invite us to reconnect with our souls, to live with greater awareness, and to die with wisdom and grace. His mystical insights encourage us to live authentically and align with our deeper purpose, knowing that death is not the end, but a gateway to profound cosmic understanding. In conclusion, the banned interviews and hidden teachings of Carl Jung reveal an uplifting, transformative view of life after death. Jung offers a bridge between science, psychology, and spirituality, one that doesn't demand blind faith, but encourages personal exploration. His visions of peace, wholeness, and eternal existence provide comfort in a world that often fears the unknown. It's time to reclaim Jung's wisdom, explore his forbidden knowledge, and transform the way we think about death forever. Carl Jung saw death not only as a departure from the physical world, but as the final act of psychological integration. Throughout life, people often live in fragmentation, divided between their conscious persona and unconscious drives. Jung believed that after death, this split dissolves, and all aspects of the psyche merge into one whole self. This integration brings a peace unknown in waking life. He explained that the illusions of separation are stripped away, and what remains is pure unity and clarity. This profound peace, Jung claimed, is the true reward of life's inner work. Jung's conclusion: by embracing our unconscious and facing our shadows during life, we can ease our passage into a blissful afterlife. Jung's cross-cultural studies revealed something fascinating. No matter where people came from, the archetype of death appeared in remarkably similar forms. Whether it was the angel of death, the grim reaper, or the psychopomp guiding souls, Jung discovered that humans instinctively coded the death experience into archetypal imagery. This suggested to Jung that death was universally understood by the unconscious. It was not something to fear, but something already familiar to the deepest parts of ourselves. Jung believed that these cross-cultural archetypes served to guide the soul after death, offering comfort and orientation in the unknown realms beyond life. Jung noticed that many psychological illnesses stemmed from an individual's fear of death and resistance to life's natural cycles.